Everyone has a reason for getting out of bed in the morning. For some people, their purpose is to get up and play computer games all day. That's their purpose. It's just not a particularly meaningful one. For other people, their purpose is to go to work and make money. Again, that's fine if that's serving a greater purpose, but money within itself is not a meaningful purpose. Some people get out of bed, all right, to look after their kids. That is a meaningful purpose, right? I've spoken to many parents over the years who feel like they're missing out on something. They say, oh, I wake up and kind of look after the kids, and especially through that COVID-19 lockdown, many people were homeschooling and say it feels like Groundhog Day. And it says, do not undermine what you're doing right now. You're investing into your family. This will come back to you in the future. Your kids will love you for it. All right? How many generations of kids were shipped off to school by parents who were completely unavailable? Perhaps you can relate to this. Maybe you didn't have an available mother or a father, or a mother or a father. My goodness, there are many kids today get fobbed off and dumped in this so-called care system because the parents can't be bothered, because it's an inconvenience. So we have some kids growing up through life believing that they are just an inconvenience or unloved or whatever, but it's got nothing to do with that. All right? Sometimes parents are thoughtless. All right? Not all grown-ups are grown up, and not all adults are adults about things. So if you want to know what your purpose is, look at how it is that you are investing your time today. All right? All you ever have is now. Right? You don't have tomorrow. There's no guarantee that tomorrow is going to come. You cannot control whether you even wake up tomorrow morning or whether you don't. So if your life is on purpose, if you want to get clear on whether your life is on purpose or not, the question isn't, where am I going or where have I been? The question is, what are you directing your time, your attention, and your focus on today? Is your purpose to become more valuable within your place of work? To become a more valuable team member? Or a more congruent, more integral team leader or manager or boss or employee or a slightly more self-aware human being? That's on purpose. It's good purpose. All right? But either way, you're already on purpose. All right? It's just many people aren't clear on what the purpose is. They think that the purpose is going to be some, Bobby Dazzler, some shiny thing that comes down from the clouds. It's not what purpose is. Some people read books, I want to know my purpose. Make a decision and get on with it. You're already on purpose. Some people decide that they want to live purposeless lives, and they're pretty determined to live purposeless lives. We're only ever one decision away from completely turning our life around. I understand that the greatest problem that many people have in life is that they fail to take responsibility for themselves. Most days they don't have what they want, but at the same time they won't take responsibility for pursuing what they want. This is the great responsibility rebellion of life. I think some guy wrote a book about that. Maybe it was me. Maybe the book looks like that. Responsibility rebellion, an unconventional approach to personal empowerment. It looks like this. Now, I'm not pitching a book here, right? I'm saying this is a really, really important idea. If you want to get clear on your life, where you're at, where you're going, where you've been, all right, you're not going to get this degree of clarity until you are fully responsible for yourself, until you've taken full ownership of your life. Remember the Kubler-Ross curve, right? Some people just go through life in the days, shocked. Oh, I'm just overwhelmed by life. Or they're sad and depressed. Not getting what I want. Not willing to do anything about it. Just not getting what I want. Someone's not come along and saved my day yet. I need a hero to come along and make my life work. No one's come along. I'm entitled to someone doing something for me. Oh dear. Some people in a place of panic, denial. Nothing wrong with my life. My life's fine. Pardon? What are you talking about? My kids are estranged from me. Everything's fine. Denial. Panic. Panic stations. Denial. Sadness. Depression. People get themselves in an emotional state, and that is off purpose. That is off purpose. All right? You can't afford to live your life in an emotional state. All right? You will never be taken seriously. You will never be trusted. All right? So long as you are in an emotional state. So the key is taking responsibility for our lives, for ourselves. All right? And ditching this responsibility rebellion. It's like so many people are hell-bent on rebelling against taking responsibility for themselves. Society will make my life work out. It's the politicians' role to make my life work out. It's society's role to make my life work out. Mum and dad are bad because they never made my life work out. Nonsense! We're each responsible for ourselves. Maslow got this, hence the reason he proposed this hierarchy of needs. We're driven by a set of physiological needs: food, water, clothing, shelter, warmth. Food, water, clothing, shelter, warmth. Once we have those things, we become motivated by a higher set of needs, security needs, by having savings in the bank, perhaps, debt-free, some insurances, maybe a roof over our head, mortgage paid off. That's fantastic. Then once we've got all that stuff paid off and cleared, we become motivated by something greater, because we're never fulfilled. There's nothing in this world that can fulfill us forever. Nothing. Right? There isn't. Put me to the test in this. All right? So people then become driven by relationships and social interactions and have a social set of needs. And then they get those things and they kind of get that in the bag. And it might be satisfying for a while, for a season, but eventually that gets taken for granted as well. So people will now become driven by perhaps leaving a legacy behind, or making a name for themselves, or developing a reputation, or getting some street cred, or something like that. And then he says that some people in life reach this stage where they awaken to the world. They awaken to themselves. They have this epiphany, this realization. Wow. What am I living for? What's life all about? What am I actually doing? I'm just kind of in this hamster wheel of life, going round in circles. I'm going around the motions, but I'm not actually getting to where I want to be. So Maslow's, the top of his kind of hierarchy, if you like, he coined the term self-actualization, where people wake up and realize, well, okay, I can get more stuff, I can get more people, I can meet my basic needs, I can get a reputation, but none of this is fulfilling, none of it's rewarding. So instead, I'll develop myself instead. I'll grow. Let me put me to the test now. Rather than trying to get more stuff, let's see if I can become a contributor. And I can become a contributor rather than, consuming everyone else's contributions. I become a contributor, which means I develop me. I get clear on my mind. I get clear on my intentions. I might develop my skill set and upskill if I need to, so I can add some value into this world of ours. It's self-actualization. Waking up. I can be a contributor rather than just another consumer. But many people never do this, because making the shift in life involves taking a risk. And a lot of people get stuck in the comfort zone. And this idea is what I want to open up this teaching. That's the introduction of this video over. Up in the north of Scotland, there's a fishing town called Portsoy. This lady here is called Margaret. Margaret's got a bird. Now Margaret is the proprietor of a hotel called the Station Hotel. Her and her mother have had this for generations. This was years ago before they both died. But me and my sister used to get taken up there when we were children by my mum and dad. We would go on caravanning holidays. This was where my father spent the majority of his time travelling around the north of Scotland trying to sell stuff to make money. Right, came at the cost of us having an available father. But we would go on a caravan holiday once a year. We'd go and see Margaret. Now we loved going to see Margaret because Margaret had a bird. She called the bird Tweety, can't remember, I think it was called Tweety. And it was a mynah bird, one of these birds that would speak to you. Right, would whistle theme tunes from the telly and all that sort of thing. Now Margaret would keep her bird on a table in the corner of her main sitting room. She lived in a flat above the hotel. Where the bird would stay for 9 months of the year, until the really sunny summer days, where she would pick up the birdcage, take him through and place him on a secondary table next to a window in her kitchen. On the beautiful sunny days, she would open the window, let the little bird look out. Now on those days, Margaret thought she was doing a good turn by her little bird, but little did she know that those days were kind of like torment in hell for Tweety. Because those were the days that Margaret's bird realised that he was a caged bird. He had all the security and all the stability in the life, but he had no autonomy. He had no freedom. And this caused him concern as he looked out and compared himself to all the other birds who were sitting in the trees, building nests, pecking up worms. Those were experiences that he just never had in life. So one day Margaret went shopping, and it was a nice sunny day, and the bird was on the table next to the kitchen window, and the window was open. As Margaret that day left for the shops, she forgot to close the window. A gust of air blew through the house, and the door of the birdcage blew open. And this was the bird's chance. This was his choice. He sat there thinking to himself, this is it. I can go for gold here. All I've got to do is spread my wings and fly. I can soar like an eagle, or a seagull, or a pigeon. Probably just a pigeon up in the north of Scotland. Get a lot of pigeons up there. But he thought, wow, I can go and sit in the trees, and I can go and, get some woodlouse, maybe peck up some ants, get some berries from the bushes out there. I can go and fly around with other birds and maybe even get myself a little birdie girlfriend or something. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Maybe even have some birdie babies. And he was just getting excited at the idea of what an autonomous life might look like for him. But then he thought, but what about Margaret? But, what about Margaret? Margaret takes care of me, she looks after me, she feeds me in winter, keeps me warm, puts a roof over my head. I've got a really good thing going with Margaret. Margaret gives me everything that I need, everything that I want. Oh, but I could get out there and go and kind of, make some friends, and I could go and just spread my wings and fly. I've never done that before. I've been in a cage my whole life. And he sat there procrastinating all day. Should I stay or should I go? He wasn't quite sure which decision to make until Margaret returned from the shops around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She walked into the house, put her grocery bags down on the floor. To her horror, she realised the door of the birdcage had fallen open. But she quickly grabbed the cage, closed the door, took him back through to the table in the corner of her living room in her little flat, where she proceeded to put a blanket over the birdcage. The little bird fell asleep, and nothing changed for the little bird. He had a bit of an idea of what might have been nice for his life, but he never took action, and nothing changed. And he lived out his days, and he died in the birdcage. And I tell you this story because this is how many people's story end. They die in their birdcage of security. This is a big problem for many people, all right? A lot of people go through life choosing security, stability, not understanding that they're compromising autonomy and freedom in the process. So let us take a little bit of time here to explore some of our most fundamental human values, right? The first two I've just highlighted here, freedom and security. This is, our values offer us a basis for making wise and well-informed decisions in life. Where many people fail is they want autonomy, they want more time, they want more space, they want more freedom, but yet they choose the comfort zone of what they know. They choose what's safe. The problem is, if we want more freedom in life, we've got to embrace change, right? And the problem is, change walks hand in hand with risk. It's only when we commit to the process of change and we begin to grow that we start to make progress in life. What would progress have looked like for Margaret's bird? Well, progress for Margaret's bird would have looked like stepping out of the birdcage and flying. It's just making a decision. It's just changing one thing. But why do many people not make changes? Well, we understand the Kubler-Ross change transition curve. When people change, they're met with a culture shock because change accompanies shock. And the problem is today that most people associate shock, which is just a normal human experience, with sort of like mental disorder or condition. Kind of like, it's an absolute no-no to experience any sort of, undesired emotion these days. This is where the world's at. And it's causing a lot of people a lot of problems, and it's costing a lot of people the autonomy that they actually want in life. All right? You see, in order to progress in life, we've actually got to embrace change in faith of the best case scenario. But this is only going to work with us if we're also committed to the process of growing and developing ourselves as human beings. Now here's the thing. Many people view change as something that must be avoided at all costs, which comes at the cost of progress and it also comes at the cost of freedom. So some people get security, and with security can come sometimes balance. All right, balance is all right. We can sometimes get a little bit of peace. And we can sometimes find a community, because communities tend to be forged around security and stability. But everything's a trade-off. And what I'm not saying here is that security is the arch enemy of all progress in life. It's just that if progress is your goal, then you're going to have to compromise and give up security. If freedom is your goal, you're going to have to compromise security. However, if progress is your goal, again, you're going to have to compromise security, but you're going to have to embrace faith. You're going to have to give up fear. You're going to have to give up fear of the unknown. If you want more than what you have, you've got to give up what you've accepted and embraced up until now. Wisdom is the understanding of what our decisions are going to cost us. Many people go through life not counting the cost of the decisions, such as, right, many people pursue excitement. Excitement is great. For example, husbands sometimes cheat on their wives. Why? Because an office affair is exciting. Sometimes wives cheat on their husbands because an affair is exciting. Sometimes people never commit to one lifelong career or vocation or calling because it seems a little bit boring, because sometimes some people prioritize excitement, which comes through change, diversity, but then compromise the one thing that they want the most, which is actually stability. You can't have stability and excitement at the same time. Right? Stability is stability. Stability comes with sameness, comes with consistency. Whereas excitement comes with risk, comes with change, comes with uncertainty. It comes with new. It comes with the unknown. So everything's a trade-off. You want clarity in life, you need clarity in the reasons why you make the decisions that you make. You need to have clarity on what it is that you actually want. Do you want connection? Is connection important to you? Meaningful connection with human beings? Because the only way that you're going to get this meaningful connection with other human beings is if you commit to living a life of integrity. Because people are only going to remain meaningfully connected with people they can fundamentally trust. All right? And you're going to have to consider how generous you are with your time and your resources. All right? Like, seriously, are you a consumer or are you a contributor? Because if you want meaningful connection, well, you're only going to be able to connect with people that you invest into. The health of your relationships will be determined by your willingness to invest into them. The problem is, many people don't invest into relationships because they're still of this consumer mindset. Are you getting any clarity here? If you want to build strong connections with other people, you're going to have to learn how to master communication. You're going to have to learn how to say what you mean and also mean what you say, which is a mark of integrity. Now, these things are all just values, all right? These values live within all of us. I want security, but I also want freedom. I want connection, but I also love creativity. For me, creativity is freedom. For me, creativity and freedom walk hand in hand. If I do not have time and space to create, then for me, this is no freedom. But it's also not security. It's not even stability. For me, it's just noise. It's chaos. Some people prioritize chaos. Some people thrive in chaos. For some people, chaos is just excitement. It's change. For some people, change is chaos. Some people become addicted to chaos. It becomes a source of life for them. Some people prioritize chaos because it keeps them going, and it keeps them going, but it comes at the cost of security or freedom. Sometimes, if we want to connect meaningfully with people, we've got to collaborate with people, and we've also got to contribute. The problem is, some people won't contribute because they don't believe in generosity, because they're guarded, defended, still looking for what they can get from people or things. They want security, they want connection, but they don't want to invest into people for it. They want a pay rise, they want more money, they want that promotion, they want more significance, but they're not committed to the process of investing into themselves and developing themselves as people, the kind of people who can fundamentally be trusted with more responsibility, which is where trust comes from. I will only trust you to the degree that I see that you take responsibility for your life, for your words, for yourself, for your emotions, for your actions, for your behaviours. So long as someone else or something else is responsible for you, I will trust you to that degree. For better or for worse. Strength. Are we talking about biceps here? Are we talking about physical strength? Are we talking about strength of character? A people who know what they want and have the drive and determination to pursue what they want relentlessly. All right? It makes no difference to me what your priorities are, but it will make every difference to you. And here's the thing. If we cross paths and your priorities are similar to my priorities for a season, we might even go on to collaborate. But the second that your priorities change and become different from my priorities, that will become the same moment that we disconnect. We can only remain connected with those individuals whom we are in alignment with on a priorities level. Hence the reason. The most common reason why people get laid off from work. Conflict of interests. What is a conflict of interests? Well, an organisation or a company has a priority to generate profit. If a management team or employees are not contributing to this priority, i.e. are just costing or consuming from an organisation, not contributing into it, then this is referred to as a conflict of interests. So we understand this in the corporate world, we understand this in the business world. It's important that we also understand this on a relational world. Because if you're in a long-term relationship with someone, for example, and your spouse's priority is start a family, whereas your priority is I want excitement and change and progress, well, we now have a conflict of interests, a conflict of priorities, which is more than enough to splice two people apart. Innovation. If you want to grow, if you want to progress, right, we've got to consider how innovative our lives are. Right? Innovation revolves around our creative willingness to find new solutions for old problems, or find new, innovative, integral ways to manage tensions between people and their relationships, i.e. forge healthier connections, which requires us to prioritise how well and articulately we communicate. Have you noticed how articulate I am throughout this course? I do my very, very best to say what I mean and also mean exactly what I say to minimise the risk of you confusing or misinterpreting me. Because if you misinterpret me, you're going to go on to disconnect from me, assume the worst, judge, assume, all that kind of low-level stuff. Your way of living life might not be the most effective way of living life. Perhaps there's a more effective way. Perhaps it's actually better to prioritise cooperating with people than what it is to compete against them. Right? I've recently just let a couple of people go, and I'm just about to let a few more people go. Why? Because of their own ego trips. Some people are out there for no greater reason than to make their own name great. Right? And it's not possible to cooperate with those people. We're talking a conflict of interests, a difference of priorities. Right? We're either here to cooperate, to collaborate, to complement each other, or compete. So you want more effectiveness. Effectiveness isn't something that you can just learn how to be more effective by managing your emails more effectively or kind of time management. Effectiveness has absolutely nothing to do with time management. It has everything to do with priority management. And this is why half of the guys out there in the circuit working their personal effectiveness workshops are kind of leading much of the world astray. How you manage your time will be governed by your priorities. So there's no point in you trying to pick up some techniques for time management if you are not clear on what your priorities are. Once you're crystal clear on what your priorities are, which might be freedom, might be creativity, creative expression, it might be you want to be more generous for the people in your life, or you might want to be more philanthropic in your society or in your culture. You might just want to become a legacy in your home nation. You might want to become a leader in your home nation who contributes rather than just consumes. You might want to drive change. There's that crazy word again. Who wants change? We want change. Who wants to change? Not so many. Who wants to lead change? Very few. I'm here to lead change. I'm all right with it. For me, leading change is exciting. So I get excitement and I get to change people's lives through influencing people. I get to do this by being completely authentic, by exercising maturity, and I'm just at where I'm at. Right? People have different interpretations of what it means to be mature in life. Some people assume that maturity accompanies age. I understand that maturity is going to be determined by an individual's willingness to take responsibility for their life. You have some people who occupy high-profile, prestigious vocations in life, so they've got high-flying careers. Some of them are like highly academic, but haven't yet taken responsibility for being a relatable father or mother or a loving, compassionate husband or spouse. Or so some people might do very well in some life areas whilst failing miserably in others. So I prioritize balance. I'm forever looking for imbalance in my life. I work hard. I sometimes get preoccupied with progress. So I look at professional work, progress, right? I get caught up in this sometimes. Every single day, I have to at night time. Stop. Is there anything that I'm doing? Is there a way in which I'm being that's compromising the relationship that I have with my wife, my home? Is what I'm doing today helping me get closer to where I want to be tomorrow, or is it actually just blocking me from getting where I want to be tomorrow? Come on, so many of us get blinded by busyness. We can't afford to be busy. We need clarity as to the reasons why we do what we do. Do you want to contribute? Oh, we've got that word twice there. Look at that. I was just testing, making sure that you picked up on that. I've written that twice on the board because it's doubly important. Become a contributor. Stop the consuming. Stop the consuming. Productivity. Personal productivity. What is productivity? Productivity is essentially us delivering outcomes. We're only productive as per the outcomes that we deliver upon. Right? So are you driven by outputs or by outcomes? Remember the guy with 50 little arrows? Remember the guy with one on target? The question is, what do you want? Am I productive in my marriage? Yeah, I'm productive in my marriage. I've got a strong connection with my wife. Am I productive in my business? Yes, I'm massively productive in my business. Well, how come? Is it because I go and read advice books on how to manage my emails and how to kind of quantify my time? Not at all. Because I understand what my priorities are, it makes it very, very easy for me to say yes and no to people. I just simply let my yes mean yes and my no mean no. So you can send me an email today. Kane, I've got a question about the course that I bought for $30 or $40 or whatever. You bought a course. It doesn't qualify you for access to my time. My time comes with a $5,995 price tag, by the way. Right? And that's only there to scare people away, because I know most people wouldn't pay that for my time, which means that I get to maintain my freedom to create whatever I want to create. I love creating. I don't love time boundness. I don't love a diary. I don't love inflexibility. I don't prioritize having my time accounted for every day, because that just takes from my freedom. So for me, if I say freedom is my priority, then every single decision that I make will be based upon whether this decision is going to give me more freedom or take away from my freedom. So people say, Kane, can I book some time with you in 3 weeks from now? Well, I don't know if I'm going to be alive tomorrow, so absolutely not. Right? I will not take bookings a week in advance. Now, I only say this as an example. Just as an example. You might disagree. And even if you do disagree, it's not because I'm wrong, all right? It's just because you prefer to do things differently, because you have a different set of priorities. We understand people, we sometimes understand ourselves more effectively when we grow to understand the reasons why people do what they do. If I say I don't keep a diary, you might say that's irresponsible. Well, it's not irresponsible if my number one priority in life is freedom. I see freedom as having the time and space to be able to create and do what I want to do when I want to do it. It's autonomy. It's my number one priority in life at this stage of my life. I'm about to enter into family. which means that no one in this world will qualify for my time other than those people who I immediately work with and my family. That's my prerogative, but you also have one. I've been very, very patient to get to this place in life. All right? The reason why some people are so busy and come across so desperate, they make sporadic, knee-jerk decisions, reckless decisions, is because they want tomorrow to come today. They want to reach that elevator penthouse apartment of life without working hard. Many people go through life being envious of the results that other people get, but not always being so envious of sometimes the decades that it takes people to get there. Come on, it's easy to admire the outcomes of people's lives, but it's not always so easy to admire the hard work, the blood, sweat and tears that it's taken to get there. All right? Is this giving you a little bit of insight into human behaviour? Is this giving you a little bit of insight into you? I'm not here to give you insight into me. All I can do is relate to my own experience. Why? Because I don't know you. I don't know what motivates you. I only know what motivates me. And this is by no means an extensive list of values. Are you passionate about justice? Do you think there should be more justice throughout society? Do you see an opportunity to fill some sort of social void? Because I guess if you do see an injustice in the world, I see multiple injustices. I see injustices going on in the family home when parents are unavailable for their kids because they're preoccupied by making money, by a career, by playing it safe, by security. Some parents prioritise security, have that financial safety net, and compromise freedom, undermine their own ability to be creatively expressive and potentially generate more. But that would require change. It would require faith to be exercised and risks to be taken, but many people won't, and it's okay. There is no right or wrong. There's just the decisions that we make. You cannot make right or wrong decisions. You can break the law, or you can operate within the law. You can break the rules, or you can go and create your own rules. It's entirely up to you, but either way you're going to be playing by some rules, either your own rules or someone else's. And what I'm saying is when we grow to understand what drives us in life, we can start creating our own rules. We can start playing our own games our way rather than the games of other people and playing by their rules. Come on, we're brought into a world, we're brought into a matrix if you like, we're brought into societies and cultures all around the world where everyone else has an opinion as to what is right for us. You know, we're to dress a certain way, we're to act and behave a certain way, we're to turn up for work and not question the adults and the older, wiser people in society. But who's to say the older people are wiser? Who's to say the younger generations aren't wiser? How would we know? What is wisdom? Wisdom is just our innate ability to make sensible decisions that will get us closer to what we actually want without breaking the law, without undermining or taking something from someone else. If our lives are only increasing at the cost of other people, we're not living our life in a win-win collaborative way. And I implore you to consider this, because today we live in this competitive dog-eat-dog world. And what's it costing people? Meaningful connection. You can win, you can get the top of that leadership board or that kind of that leaderboard, you can get the social likes, you can get the social influence, you can get the popularity, you can get all the money in the bank. But if this is costing you your own soul, if this is costing you what it is that you want the most, then the question is it worth it? I'm here to help you open your eyes, but your responsibility is to realign and determine the decisions that you take from here on in. It's all right. I could talk about this for another couple of hours, but I'm not gonna. All right, this is just to get you thinking. It's to open your eyes to yourself. Every single decision that you make in life is a values-based decision. We all have these values. They all exist within us. It's the coffee cup principle. They all drive us. The only thing that differentiates me from you and you from me is how it is that we prioritize. And this is where most discrimination comes from in life. You're prioritizing something different from me, therefore you're bad. That's not healthy. It's not even remotely mature. The healthiest approach we can take towards people is understanding them. All right? Wow, you're doing life and living life in a completely different way from me. Why? Help me understand. Because if I can understand why it is that you do what you do, this might help me to understand me just a little bit more. And that can only be a good thing.